Hello and welcome to today's edition of Motivational Minds Radio. This is the program where we get to take a closer look into the minds of the authors who put the words on the page for us to enjoy for our reading pleasure. It keeps us motivated, it keeps us inspired, and it prepares us for the adventures that life throws at you each and every day. On today's show, we are speaking with Ida Suburan. And Ida was born in Jamaica. She's of Indian descent, and she was educated in Jamaica, in the Indian subcontinent, and in the United States of America. Ida has a Master of Education degree from Harvard University, the Graduate School of Education, and for many years she worked for a United Nations technical agency as an international civil servant in the area of education. Ida has lived in a variety of cultural settings around the world, and she has visited many countries in different continents. Her education experience and wide exposure have influenced and inspired the theme of this book. Some other facts about Ida: besides writing, she loves to paint exotic flowers and landscapes, some of which have been on exhibition. Recently, Ida published an e-book for the children ages 3 and above, in English and in French, and that's entitled The Date Palm Tree. In French, correct me if I'm wrong, Ida, Le Palmier Dattier. Is that right?
Oh, it's very good.
Beautiful. And,
you did well.
Thank you very much. So I guess those French classes came in handy. So currently, Ida lives in Paris, and I am so glad to be speaking to her while she sits in the luxurious, passionate town in the world, Paris. Ida, welcome to the program. How are you?
Oh, thank you. I'm very well, thank you. It's my privilege to talk with you.
Oh, we are so glad to have you here. So, guys, just so you know, Ida is the author of the book that just launched September 15th of 2013. It's called Wealth: Prepare Your Children to Make Fortunes, How Parents Can Help Promote Financial Success in Their Children. Ida, please tell us. This is a crucial topic of education and just learning and life skills in general. Why did you write this book?
Well, my education, experience, and wide exposure have influenced and inspired the theme of this book. I have had the privilege of working for a United Nations technical agency in the area of education in many countries of the world. And through this international experience, I was able to identify the void in an area concerning financial education of children, a void which has contributed so much suffering, frustration, and despair. I recognize the pressing need to help children to understand and appreciate the value of money and to offer them a head start in all that affects them financially. So I was inspired to write this book in an effort to help in the improvement of the lives of children and young people in particular, to improve their attitudes, knowledge, learning, and actions. With my experience of conditions both in the developed countries and in the developing ones, I know at first hand the difference even a basic grasp of money matters can make to a child's ability to cope. For some fortunate children, this means better utilization of the money they earn or that comes their way. For the less advantaged, it can mean survival.
I love how you put that. It means survival. And
it's so true.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that there is a void in money, and I think that may be one of the keys in that void, is that survival. Like, when will money not be about survival, and when will it be about prosperity and abundance?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. So much focus has been placed, as you rightly said, on abundance and being rich or super rich, while at the bottom end, a whole vast majority of people want to have just a little to survive, to live properly. I mean, you have traveled too, so you understand.
Yes, very much. You know, Ida, we've also got something else in common that you don't know. Let me share with you. We're also both Caribbean. So I see that you were born in Jamaica. My parents come from the Caribbean. My mother's from Trinidad. My father's from Dominica. So I am curious to know, what stories did your parents tell you about money while you were growing up?
Well, that's a good question. When I was growing up, I didn't want to be rich. I didn't want to have money because at the time, in Jamaica and I'm sure in the the Caribbean countries, there were lots of preachers going around telling you you can't go to heaven if you're rich. You've heard that, haven't you?
That one I haven't heard, but there are so
yes.
many. I mean, I've heard the money hasn't grown on trees. I heard the
Yes.
what's your last maid die of.
That too. Money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah.
Yes.
But money never interested me as such. Never.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when did you decide that you wanted to help parents? When did you decide that you wanted to give the parents the information to share with our youth, to share with their own children so that they can better, bring up kids that are knowledgeable about their finances?
Well, as I said, my education is in early childhood education, but parents are the first and most important educator. Children. The most important educator of young children are the parents, and they have to assume this role because many think, and I'm sure you may have heard this, that many people want their children to be educated only at schools.
Yes.
Especially those who have no other knowledge,
Yes.
So they rely heavily on the school without knowing that they have a most important role to play.
Absolutely. And yourself, being a Harvard graduate, I mean, Harvard is one of the most prestigious Ivy League schools in America, but yet you...
In the world.
In the world, yes, thank you for correcting me, in the world. And yet you feel safe and comfortable enough to let people know that you don't get it all in school. What can you share with us about that?
Because when you're born, you're at home. You're with your parents every day, all day sometimes. And it's this informal education, that's transmitted from parent to child, or whoever is taking care of the child, And children learn not only from schools and books, they learn from observing, they learn from interaction, they learn from seeing, and playing. Play, of course, is so important too, and many parents who don't know better, they think children are wasting time. But especially when they're young, that's when they learn very quickly by interacting and observing and so on. So this is a crucial time to help them to understand basic things. And financial education is one of the basic things that they should know about.
Absolutely. Do you have any tools or techniques or games that you can recommend that a parent play or, have their child participate in so that they can learn some of these things hands-on?
There are no prescribed specific games. It's just interacting. And in my book, I have suggested activities where, for example, a parent is going on a trip with a child, a shopping trip. They're going to buy oranges or whatever. The child can see the parent is spending $2 and knows the cost of the oranges. Now, you can learn that at school, but you're learning firsthand, and you can see it. And the next time you go shopping, your mother may say, "How much should I pay for the oranges?" This is like a game now. Huh? Oh, $2 or whatever. So you have to make up little games, as you call them, or activities as you go along. Informal education is very, very important in young children. Even at home when parents are fighting about money and discussing, they learn bad things. It gives them a bad impression.
Yes.
So not just about money, about anything. So they have to be very careful about their behaviors too.
Yes, absolutely. I remember I was in India for a short while ago, and the family that I was staying with, the daughter, she was about 8 or 9 years old, And it was amazing how much of a sponge she was. I mean, I haven't spent that much time around young kids in a long time. So to see how much she picked up, you know, we didn't speak the same language. She could understand me, but she picked up so much just by listening to the music I was listening to or opening the books that I was reading or my mannerisms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when I have a child, I better watch out.
Yes, exactly. You're very aware of these things.
Yeah.
But many times parents don't pay enough attention to these little things, you know. They're so preoccupied by other things.
Yes.
But as you know, most people never learn how to be parents.
Yeah.
They just get married and have children and they think they know it all, but it's not true.
Yes. And they just, you know, we can go into a conversation perhaps about developing countries, you know, because things get passed on along generations. I remember I was listening to this one story who he was talking about how his wife would make either a ham or a roast or something and put it in the oven, and she would cut off both sides of it in order to cook it for dinner. And those were his favorite parts of the meat. So he asked his wife, why are you cutting off those two sides of the piece of meat? And she says, well, because my mother taught me how to do it this way. So then she goes to her mother and she says to her mother, well, who taught you how to do it this way? And she says, well, my mother taught me how to do this way. Now they said, well, let's go to your mother and find out why. So they went to her mother, and now we're, 3 generations back of women cooking this roast? And she says, well, why do you cut off the both sides of this meat? And it's so that it could fit in the oven.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And this is what happens with money. Times have changed. You know, milk is not $1 anymore. Gas is not, 80 cents a gallon anymore. But yet, that's the things. Those are the lessons that we're being taught from people that have been in that generation.
Yes. You see, people just repeat without questioning.
Without questions. Yes. Beautiful.
Yes, that's too bad.
Well, it's not too bad. We're gonna change that. That's why we're going
to change that. And this book has a lot to offer you.
Awesome. So in developing countries, right? I've spent quite some time in some developing countries, and I've noticed that same pattern. I don't think it matters where you are or what you come from. You are taught something from your family. And how do you recommend people respectfully cross generational lines and start educating about the new ways of protecting your finances or the life skills, financial skills?
Well, you can't stay in the past forever. You have to change.
Can you repeat that? Say that again.
You cannot live in the past forever.
Beautiful. You cannot
have to change and adapt. Mm-hmm. You cannot repeat what may be good at a certain time, but may be bad now, maybe negative. And for financial education, life has become harder over the years for lots of people in the developing countries. Mm-hmm. And family life has broken down too. And so women have a lot of problems to cope with family and just living. And they may not have time. They may not have time to educate. I use that word in a wide sense. Their children. So grandparents are usually depended on to take care of the children. Mm. And from the grandparents, they learn a lot of things, whether it's good or bad, usually with good intentions, always. Mm. Huh? And therefore, parents have to be aware of what is intended and what should be in whatever area of life that they're trying to teach their children. Mm-hmm. How to improve their lives, or how to be healthy, how to save a penny, whatever.
Okay, beautiful.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I think you did. I think that you gave a very good understanding of the generations and the responsibility that elders have taken in teaching children their ways. And in your book, what would be maybe 1, 2, or 3? Give us a few takeaways that you want your readers to really, really start to practice, because that's where the magic happens, is when you take something you've read or take something that makes complete sense and you now incorporate it into your daily life. So what few things would you want your readers to start practicing in order to get the children to really enhance their financial success?
First thing, and most important, I would say, since parents are the first and most important educator of their children, we have to incite parents to take the subject of starting financial education seriously. Promote the concept of saving, spending, and generosity accounts. Incorporating financial awareness training at home, in schools, and in other contexts, meaning even at play, on trips, and during travels, on visits to other places. Teaching the relationship of financial accounting and time. For example, saving accounts and budgeting over time. They will gain more for a longer time. If they save for many years, they'll gain more. Financial awareness training is not just pertinent to middle or upper income households. Financial awareness training is not just pertinent to families in developed countries. I think those are some of the basic ideas I'd like to pass on.
Beautiful.
In other words, it's not just young children. It goes up to teenagers when they're about to start working, where they have to start saving. They know how to budget. They have to learn how to budget. And therefore, you have to start from early to get them in the habit of saving, whatever it is, and to understand why they have to do it, and that they have to spend also is necessary. And, you can't, if you have saved some money for X and you want Y and Z, it's not possible. You have to choose. So they learn how to make decisions. Yes. And then there's so many little things in the book that is better explained than my telling you over the phone like this.
Awesome. And I would also like to just put out there that it's one thing for a parent to teach this stuff to their children. I think that is, very important. But it's also another thing for the parent to be walking their talk. Because that's, oh, you don't know what that means. Walking their talk, meaning practicing what they preach.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
It's nice to say. It's nicer the other way. Walking their talk. I've heard it, but since I haven't been using it, it just didn't. Anyway,
well, maybe you can add that into your vocabulary. Try it out. And
yes.
Having a parent practice what they preach, so that the children do have a role model and do understand that what my mommy or what my daddy is teaching me works because I see it working with them.
Exactly. That too is emphasized in the book, because children are always observing the parents, and this informal education is very, very potent. So they really have to be careful in what they say and do, what they practice. Yes. Because children are learning. It's not only in schools that children learn.
Absolutely.
Yes. This has to be emphasized, Oh, we leave it to the schools. When they grow up, they will learn to do this or to do that. I mean, talking about financial education, it's not true, because habits are formed early. And it's difficult to change. If you're used to spending non-stop without thinking, then it becomes a habit, a bad habit. And it's more difficult to change later.
Yes. I can say that I know that habit all too well, and now I'm making up for it.
Well, you have to read the book then.
Don't worry, I plan on it. I've actually scanned through quite a bit of it, and it's fantastic, and I think that everybody needs to pick up a copy of Wealth, Prepare Your Children to Make Fortunes, How Parents Can Help Promote Financial Success in Their Children. That's the name of the book. You can get the book on Amazon.com. In the States, you can get it from Barnes & Noble, both in the stores and on BarnesandNobles.com. And then there's also a place in the UK, bookdepository.co.uk, and all of this information will be on our site so that you can go ahead and place your orders and check out the book for yourself. So again, we're talking with Ida Suburan, the author of this book all about wealth and teaching, inspiring parents to really educate their children about financial success. Now, the word success, that word is it's kind of a heavy word because it's so broad. And as we were speaking about in the beginning, when you were younger, you didn't want to be rich per se. I know one of the reasons I do everything I do is so that I can provide my family with everything that they want. And I had a conversation with my mother once, and I'm like, I want to be a billionaire. What do you want to be? And she's like, I don't want that. I just want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, so
it's a good start.
it's a good start, but for her, comfort that's all she strives for. That's all that she wants. That makes her happy. So our versions of success is very different.
Exactly.
So what do you have to say about success and financial success, and is success guaranteed?
Well, nothing is guaranteed in this life. But it's something you have to have a purpose in life. And for so many people, having some financial success means, as I said, survival. And that's very important. So maybe, as you said, you wanted to be a millionaire, and it's an aim, but, you had the possibility. But there are many who don't even have enough to eat, and they must find a way. Now, they have to develop their creativity, their imagination, and see what's possible in their context. Mm-hmm. Success is also, well, how can you measure success? Success for one, as you said, or for another is something different.
Yes.
But you need finances to live.
Absolutely. I truly believe that success is something that is individually measured, and
exactly.
the smaller you make it, the easier you make it to be successful, the easier that days go by. Waking up is a success. Having a cup of tea in the morning is a success. Just saying good morning or smiling to someone on the street, that's a success. And when you start to build on that, you feel more successful all the time. There's this quote here I have. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say this quote that I have here is, the little money I have, that is my wealth. But the things I have for which I would not take money, that is my treasure.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
Yes, it is beautiful. And I think that when money becomes too important, we can lose ourselves in it. But when we do have the proper, outside school financial literacy training of the value of money and what it means to you, that's when we really start to make a difference in our own lives. And I hope that people get this out of your book and really start to incorporate your lessons.
One thing I also would like to add is that, people can be very, very rich, and they can be poor tomorrow. Not because you're rich, you're going to be wealthy all your life, because they don't have the right attitudes towards money. They
Absolutely.
just spend it, and tomorrow they're broke.
Yes, and they can be rich and absolutely miserable.
Exactly.
So richness is not just money.
Yeah, exactly. Money is not only richness.
Yes.
Well, I hope people will, my idea is not just to write the book, as it's to write the book, but it's to help people. I want people to understand and to get help. If they can't help themselves, maybe somebody who knows better can help them. And
Absolutely.
Those who may have the wrong attitudes and wrong ideas, they can, do some changes, make some changes.
Wonderful. Ida, thank you so much. And I am absolutely certain that is what people will get out of this once they read it and start to live by these new belief systems of what money really means in their life. And I have another last question for you. Yes. Ida, if you had to tell your 5-year-old self something about money that you know today, what would you tell her?
Well, it depends on the child,
I'm talking about you, your 5-year-old self. What would you tell your 5-year-old
I would
self?
say, what do you want to do with this money? Of course, she would say, spend it. And I say, all of it? This is informal education. You want to spend all of it or some of it? Or you want to spend some of it for yourself only or for grandma, for example. Where, you know, what I'm talking about now is managing money, about generosity. Are you going to spend some for somebody else? It's not just for me, not just for the child. And even though the child is only 5 years old, they can understand it, the language, if it's done at their level and in relationship to something they know and understand.
Okay, beautiful. And last question, what do you wish your mother told you at 5 years old?
At 5 years old, well, as I told you, I wasn't interested in money because, you know, whatever I want, I got. And I was brought up in a developing country, and internet and all that, and big stores, and these weren't possible at the time, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't live in this big city.
Yes.
So my life was in outdoors. I was
it was simple. I completely understand.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that is what made your value of money so strong today. And we are just so honored to have you with us today, Ida. Guys, you've been listening to Jeselle with Motivational Minds Radio. We've been talking with Ida Suburan, and the name of her book is called Wealth, Prepare Your Children to Make Fortunes, How Parents Can Help Promote Financial Success in Their Children. Ida, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, pick up the book. Check out our site to get more details on how you can get it. And that's our show for today. So we'll see you again next time, and have a fantastic day. Take care.